everyone, it's Shelly from Koala Knits, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful scarf. Now I have done duplicate stitching on there, and I am in love with this scarf set. I show you how to make the scarf on the Sentro 40 needle in this tutorial, but I do have a tutorial for the Bon Fire Beanie that fits my husband absolutely beautifully. For me, I'd probably go a little bit smaller, but it's perfect like this too. But this is I made this as a men's set, but you know what? It's for women too. Women and kids and whoever loves nature and loves animals, and just it's just beautiful. So join me in this tutorial. I have used Craft Smart Tweed yarn. This scarf and beanie took 2 full balls of yarn. That's it. 2 full balls of yarn. It's the tweed in silver, and it's just I just absolutely love it. So I hope you have fun making this. I will also have a tutorial on the duplicate stitch. I actually do have a tutorial on how to do the duplicate stitch, but I'm going to do another one on the pattern for this, okay? So I thought of actually recording myself doing this whole duplicate stitch and showing you that way, but it's just much too long and too hard. So it's actually not hard to do, but to video the whole thing is not easy. So I'm going to do a video and explain to you how I do the duplicate stitch for this deer head, okay? So enjoy this tutorial. I'm excited about it, and I really hope that you love it as well. I will be putting out more tutorials with scarves and different duplicate stitch patterns, so be watching for that, okay? So take care, my friends. We'll see you soon in this video. So get your stuff ready, get your yarn, get your Sentro 40. But you know what? Let me just say, if you don't have a 40 needle Sentro, make this on your 48 needle Addi, or however you make your scarves. If you use a 22 needle machine and you stitch the 2 together, invisible stitch, seam the 2 together. However you make your scarves, you can do this. So, but I have done it on the Sentro 40 needle machine. All right, I also have a tutorial out there showing you how to do the fringe on the bottom. So enjoy this video. I look forward to seeing all your creations. Okay, take care. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to use my Sentro 40 needle machine. I used Craft Smart Tweed yarn in silver, and let's begin. I just got this machine. I have an Addi King and an Addi Professional machine, the 22 and the 46 needle machine. And I just got this 40 needle Sentro. Haven't made a thing on it yet, so we're going to do this together. But right from the very start, I'll show you that I take a black permanent marker and I mark my between my last and my first peg. I'm going to use the black as my first needle. I don't know if most of you use that as your last needle or as your first, but I'm going to use it as my first. Okay, and for this project, we're going to need waste yarn, so I'm going to go behind that first needle, in front of the next, behind and in front, all the way around with my waste yarn. Now this machine does not have a counter. Oh my goodness, I did not know that. I got it off a marketplace, and I didn't know it wouldn't have a counter on it. And so now I have to look for one. I've done some research on YouTube and through the groups that some of us are all on. You'll know which ones I'm talking about. And I've seen a couple that have been suggested, and I just have to figure out which one I'm going to try. But for now, I'll just use the old-fashioned way of counting, and we'll hope that works out. Okay, so now I'm going to crank my waste yarn. I generally do 7 or 8 rows. Oh, this is going nice and smooth in this machine. I like this. Hope I didn't speak too soon. Okay, 5. It's got a different feel than my Addis for sure. It's not nearly as loud. So I think that's 7 or 8 rows right there. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to cut off my waste yarn. Put it in the center, between that last and that first needle. I'm going to grab my working yarn, and I'm going to place that in the yarn guide, in those 2 little teeth. See, I've got to make sure I remember to put it in there, because I played around with this just a little bit, and it kept missing stitches, and I'm thinking, what is going on? Until I looked further and I saw there's another little area down there to put your yarn through. It's quite a bit different, this machine, than my ones I'm used to. So anyways, there'll be a learning curve for sure. So I probably should have made something before I popped on and made a video, but that's okay. We'll learn together. So I grabbed those two yarn ends that are in the middle, and I generally do 3 or 4 needles. Then I take the yarn end and I pull it just a little bit taut there, just so that I do that for every color change, etc. too, because when I have my project off my machine and I'm looking at the right side, I want those first stitches in every row to be just as evenly tensioned as the rest of the project. So I find that helps, and we'll see. And because it's a scarf, if I miss my counter or whatever at the end, it's really no big deal. But I've got an old-fashioned counter that I got from a secondhand store quite a few years ago, and I'm just going to use that peg and count every 10 stitches, or every 10 rows that I make, and then you know, if I lose count along the way, I'll just count them up manually. It's not a big deal at all. So I'm going to keep cranking. Usually after 3 or 4 rows, I take my 2 yarn ends that are in the middle and I just give them one little tie there, just so it holds together. I don't want my waste yarn just to start unraveling, and that would give me a problem later on too. So I'm going to keep going until I get to the desired amount of rows that I need. And I'll see you back when I'm done. Okay, I thought I would pop on just to show you what I do. When it gets to about 55, 60 rows, somewhere in there, and it starts to hit the table, you don't want it to bunch up like this, because that's when your stitches will fall off and you'll get a drop stitch. So I bring it up and I make a donut out of it, rolling it quite as snugly as you can, and then just sitting it at the top there. And then every 20 rows or so, 15 rows, whenever you feel it's starting to get loose again, you can just keep rolling, and it gives it even tension around the ring here, so your stitches stay uniform and beautiful. Okay, so just thought I'd show you that, but you can keep going now, and I'll see you when we're finished. Okay, I've got to row 200 of the 300 that I'm going to do, and I ran out of yarn. So I thought I'd pop on and show you how to do a yarn color change, for those of you who don't know how to do. So for this ball of Craft Smart value tweed yarn, you get 200 rows. It's 252 yards of a 5-ounce yarn, and 200 rows is pretty good actually, I think, for this size of ball. So I'm going to take my yarn end from my new ball. First off, what I did is I put my yarn end in between. It didn't make it to the end of the row, but that's okay. My yarn changes or addition is going to go just right where this ends. So I left a long enough tail, and I put it in between those 2 needles, and I'm going to take my new yarn and put it in between those same 2 needles. Then I'm going to crank 3 or 4 needles and do what I always do. Take the both ends of the working yarn and pull it taut, and I always put that one underneath and pull it a little bit again. Then I'm going to tie. You can go a couple rounds and then tie this if you like, but I do it both ways. Sometimes I do it right then and there. If it's right at the first black and the last white needle, then I usually wait till halfway around for some reason. I don't know why I do that, but I don't want the knot, I guess, where all the changes are. So I just I'm going to knot it here, and this I'll do a double knot, because it's got to stay right. It's not waste yarn, it's the regular working yarn. And so there, I've added my new skein of yarn, and I'm going to keep going just like normal. There we go. All right, so I have 100 more rows to do, and then I'll see you back. Okay, I've got my 300 rows completed. I cut off my working yarn, put it in between the last white and the first black needle, and put it in the center of my machine. Then I'm going to take my waste yarn, insert it in my yarn feeder there, and I'm going to put it between the last white and the first black, crank out 3 rows or 3 needles or so, give that a little pull, make sure those are tucked down in there. And this is my waste yarn. We need to have a flat edge at the end of our both sides of our tube, so we need waste yarn in order to do that. So now I'm going to crank out about 7 rows of 8 rows of waste yarn. I really love this machine. I'm going to tie this off just because I don't want it to unravel just in one little knot. It just went so smoothly through my machine, and I love the feel of the handle. I just love the feel of the whole thing. I took my Addi clamps that I clamped down my Addi machines with to the table, and I maneuvered them so that they work on this actually. Of course, it can't get around the whole leg of this machine because the legs are wider and they're not round, but it can grab the edge of the machine, of the leg, and then I clamped it to my table and it's like firm. So that will work for me, and I'm happy about that, because if you noticed when I started, you could see the masking tape on the bottom of my table there, just so that it held down those little rubber suction cups a little bit better, but I don't need that now. So all right, so I cut off my waste yarn, put it in between the last white and first black needle, and stick it in the center of my machine. Then I'm going to crank. The second time around, it starts to let go of your project, just like that. Give it a little help. Got caught around there, and one more. That often happens, you just help it off. And there we've got our beautiful donut, which reminds me I'm getting hungry, so I'm gonna have to go and have something to eat, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how you close these edges with a flat edge. You know, this is like, this color of this yarn is called, let me just take another check on this again. It's called silver, and it's a tweed yarn from Craft Smart, and it's got little colored flecks in it. But normally golds would go more with a warm color of yarn. But because the brown flecks and stuff are in here, I love this gold color on this gray yarn. So I might have to do a blanket or another scarf or something where I mix the colors and do it that way. So inspiration from the waste yarn. All right, so I'll see you in a bit. Okay, now that we have our project off the machine, we're going to stretch it out in every direction. When we do that, we're going to unravel it. When we do that, we smooth out our stitches and get an even looking tension right across. Okay, so let me move my crochet hook there. So unroll your donut, your long donut. How satisfying. I love this. Winter is coming soon, folks. If you're watching this and it's like I'm doing this in summer, so by the time some of you might see this when it is winter, but right now as I'm videotaping this, it's the end of August, and it's a nice warm day out. I'm sitting in my shorts, but I know that before too long, there's going to be snow on the ground. And if you live in a very cold climate like what I do in Manitoba, it's gonna get cold fast. So we're tough out here. We can put up with really cold temperatures and it's okay, but that's why these scarves are so beautiful to have, and the beanies that we make. So I'm curious, if you're watching this video and you're from Canada, from Winnipeg area or outskirts. I'm not from Winnipeg, I'm from outside of Winnipeg. Put it in the comments. It'd just be really neat to see if there's anybody from around this area who is knitting. I'm sure that there is. There's got to be lots of you out there. And if you're from other parts of the world and you're watching this, I welcome you too. I'm so glad that you joined in. So we've got it all stretched out and ready to work on the closing of the tube. So now that we've got our, I'm going to angle my camera down just a little bit so that it's a little bit better for you. What you're going to do is take your yarn ends out of the center of your project so that you don't sew them inside. Grab your waste yarn and whatever stitch that is coming out of. So if I follow it down to here, can you see? I'm just going to check my camera, make sure I'm in the camera. If you follow it down to here, it's coming out of this stitch. So I'm going to use that as my first stitch with my favorite stitch markers, which are bobby pins. Then right across, you'll see that this one is coming out of this yellow stitch right here. The one right beside it at the top here is the last stitch that I'm going to use. I know that there are 46. Actually, this one is my new Sentro. There's 40 around, so I'm going to count 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm going to insert it in the 21st stitch because I know the 20 and 21 are exact middle for this project. Okay, so let me just make my camera, pardon my fingers there, I'm going to just make this a little bit higher there. So you're going to, and if this isn't clear enough for you, you can find my video on how to close a straight edge of a tube, and I'll go for it in more detail. Okay, so for this project, I'm just gonna grab top and bottom, put it through the loop that's on my hook, and continue in that way, going from the top one to the bottom one, top, through the loop on my hook, bottom. That's why contrasting yarn is so important, very important, because you can see the stitches so clearly, so easily. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way across. And again, if you want to see a slower version and more detailed version of where you put your bobby pins, where you put your stitch markers, where you how you do this, look up that video, and it's specifically for that. So that'll help you out a little bit better than this. Okay, so we're going to keep going right across. When I'm not talking to a camera, I'm counting stitches. You want to make sure you have the exact amount, because for this particular one, I need 40 stitches. And if I count them and make sure I have 40, then I know I'm not going to have a dropped row. If I don't count them and I miss one by mistake, then that whole row will be a dropped. That stitch will drop, and it could cause that whole row to unravel if you don't catch it. So there we go. I'm almost done. I hope I'm still in the camera here. Okay, and I'm going to, sometimes at the end they can be a little hard to find, so I love these bobby pins. I just pull up on it, put my hook underneath, take it out, finish the stitch, pull up on the other one, take it out, finish off that stitch, wrap my end around my hook and take it through that loop that's on my stitch or on my hook, and I'm going to now take off my waste yarn. Now this is the hard side, because you'll see that there are loops up there that are caught in all those stitches, and it doesn't easily come out. That was the beginning of our project. So what you got to do is you got to unravel until you get to that top row, pinch the stitch that's to the left of where you're pulling, and pull that out. You're going to do that all around for the first row. Pinch that stitch, and then it doesn't bunch up and gather and cause a knot. We're going to keep going, roll it up, grab that top row, pinch the stitch to the left of it, pull it out. This is again the hard side, and we're going to do that again until we get that first row done. Almost there, see? And then it unravels very easily. The only part is it gets caught around these two strands, so you just have to make sure it doesn't get all tangled there. Okay, so I'm going to continue to remove that waste yarn, and then I'm going to go up and close the other end the same way I close this end. Only thing with that end, the waste yarn just pulls off very easily. You don't have to pull out that first row first like what I did here. Okay, so we're going to finish that up, and I'm going to show you how to put a fringe on this beautiful scarf. Okay, so that's the edge that we made. It's beautiful. I love it. I think that it's just so satisfying. Looks so gorgeous. Such a clean finish to an edge. And I will agree with some of my knitting friends who commented on my post about whether or not they like their 40 needle Sentro, and I will say I love the width of this scarf. Like, what a difference between this and my 46 Addi. Even though I love the width of the scarves on my Addi 46, like I do, I love it very much so. I can tell right now, this is like a normal scarf you would buy in a store. So like the width of it, I would think. So anyways, go ahead and finish that other end and then meet me back. Okay, we are almost finished our scarf. Now this is the fringe that I like. I like one that's not extremely full. I do every second stitch, so well, actually I do every row because I've done 20 across there, and so there's 20 rows across on this side because my tube's in half. So I do one fringe for each row, and I like how that looks actually. And this is a shorter fringe. It's a 4-inch fringe. If you want one that's longer, then you go ahead and do that. It'd be beautiful that way too. But for me, I prefer a shorter fringe. So all I do is I found a sturdy piece of cardboard. Doesn't really matter how long you make it here, but it's how wide you want it. So this is 4 inches in width. So then when I wrap it around and cut it, I have an 8-inch strip. And then when I fold that in half to put as my fringe and my scarf, it then becomes 4 inches. So a 4-inch piece. And the reason why it's doubled is because I just simply take my yarn and I wrap it around. Oops, get this tail out of the way. Not that that really matters. And I wrap it around just like that. And I keep going. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to stop right there. But you can wrap it around as many times as you want. And then I snip that end off. I'm going to grab it over here again. But what you do is, it doesn't matter if you're cutting up here. Don't try to get an even line up there or down there. Just go right through the center here and just cut it. And the reason why that is because you're only making one cut. It doesn't matter what part of the yarn it is. It's going to take it off, except for these end pieces that aren't the right length. You throw them out. But once you get that off your cardboard, you've got all these 8-inch pieces of yarn. Okay, so from there, what we do is we fold it in half, and we've got it now a 4-inch fringe. Okay, fold it in half. Then I'm going to get those out of the way. I'm going to get my other end. I want to make sure, like for this one, I poke, when you poke your crochet hook through one side, then it finishes off the other side with this nice bar over your fringe. I want that bar to be on the same side. Let me get these fringes out of the way. On the same side on the other end of my scarf. So if I follow that down, so this is the right side. And nobody will see that but you and me, but you know, we want to do it right. So let's follow that down to the right side. So I know I want the bar to be on this side. So I'm going to bring my hook in from the other side. Okay, so I'm just going to start on one end. You bring your hook from the back to the front. You grab that loop of the fringe that you have in half. You pull it through. Then you take your hook off of the yarn there, and then you stick your fingers through that little loop that's come through, okay? And grab those 2 end pieces, pull it through, and pull it tight, okay? And you're gonna do that for every row down. Here, let me do one more. So I'm gonna take my fringe, I'm gonna put it in half, just like so. I'm going to go to the next row of stitches. You eyeball it how you want it, because you might want a double thickness. Like I like it just one on each row, but if you want it doubly thick, then I would do that, except for I wouldn't do it on the end. I'd maybe start on the second one and go to the second last one, because otherwise you have your fringe will start coming out the side there, and I don't like that look at all. I like it to be flat. So, okay, so then you pull that through, put your fingers through the loop, grab the 2 yarn ends, pull them through. So now my bar is on the same side as it is the other end, and you go all the way down. So with this fringe, like it just looks so, it looks so good, just like that. And you know, I just had to trim up a couple, so I sort of move it out with my fingers like that, and if there's just a little end, like all these are good. I only had like 2 on the end that I needed to cut, and I just do that, but they don't have to be perfect. It's a fringe. You want it to look, you know, what's the right word? Organic. Not sure if that's the right word or not, but you don't need to trim them so they're all perfect. And another thing that you can do with your fringe is take a fine tooth comb and comb it, and then you'll get like a brushed look, and that's beautiful too. For me, I'm gonna leave it like this because I like this look, and yeah, I'm gonna just leave it like that. And I'm going to do a duplicate stitch pattern on here, and so I'm not going to do that on this video. I'm going to do it on another separate video. So if you want to see a duplicate stitched pattern on my scarf, then look for that one as well. Okay, so thank you for joining me on this tutorial. I really am happy to have you a part of this channel, and thank you for supporting me in this way. If you haven't already subscribed, would you please mind doing so? I would love it if you would do that. It would mean a lot to me. So hit that subscribe button, and you'll get notifications whenever I post, which is going to be fairly regularly, I think, until I run out of ideas.
So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you have fun making a lot of these scarves for yourself, for your kids, for your friends, for gifts to sell, whatever the reason. It's a quick scarf that's beautifully made. So again, have a great day, my friends, and we'll talk to you soon.